Welcome to the Founders Leadership Operating System. If you are a founder, executive, or aspiring leader trying to scale a company, there is one truth that becomes painfully obvious over time. Building a great company is not just about having a great product. It is also about building the right leadership operating system. Because companies do not rise or fall on strategy alone. They rise or fall on culture, alignment, accountability, and leadership behavior. Hello, my name is Joel Davis, and over the last 30 years of working with founders, executives, venture-backed startups, and scaling companies, I've seen this same pattern repeat itself. Some companies build incredible momentum. Others implode, even with great products or great funding or great talent. And when you dig into why, the answer is almost always the same. They were running the wrong leadership operating system. In this multi-episode series, we're going to walk through the Founders Leadership Operating System, a practical framework for building a company culture that scales. We're going to talk about why culture is the true operating system of the company, the real sources of competitive advantage, how founders unknowingly create the culture that either powers or destroys their business, how to align every team around a North Star metric, how to align strategy, structure, systems, processes, programs, and people, why everyone must own the revenue number, and some practical examples of leadership mistakes that quietly destroy the culture inside of growing companies. And this isn't theory. These lessons come from real companies, real failures, and real successes across more than 200 startups and leadership teams. And if you're building a company, scaling a company, or leading inside one, these ideas will save you years of pain or confront the problems you already feel inside your organization. So let's start where every great company must start. Not with strategy, not with product, but with the one system that determines where everything else succeeds or failures, and that's culture. Culture is the operating system of the company. Culture is not a soft thing. It's the system that runs the company, and you must get it right. If you're building a startup, you're not just building a product, you're building a business filled with people, and that people have a pattern of behavior, and that behavior impacts how they do their work. That pattern impacts how decisions are made, how conflict is handled, how goals are set, how accountability is enforced, how customers are treated. All of it becomes your culture. So it's not a vibe in the office. It's not free snacks or values posters or an all-hands meeting. Culture truly is the operating system of your company, which we're going to cover in really good detail. It dictates what gets rewarded, gets tolerated, ignored, promoted, protected, and blamed. You can have a brilliant product strategy and still fail if your culture cannot execute it. Which is why, as Peter Drucker famously said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. That statement is not motivational fluff. It is a warning. If the underlying culture does not support ownership, clarity, accountability, and disciplined execution, none of it matters. You will see the symptoms. Sales getting blamed for everything. Engineering shipping what is cool and interesting but doesn't sell. Marketing chasing meaningless metrics or vanity metrics that don't drive revenue growth. Or the dreaded politics and personalities overtaking principles and performance. And once that pattern sets in, scaling only magnifies the dysfunction. As Lou Gerstner said after turning around IBM, culture isn't just one aspect of the game, it is the game. Structure and strategy can be rewritten, but boy, culture resists change once it has hardened. So culture is the internal engine. Competitive advantage is how the engine shows up in the market. And the truth is that competitive advantages are not just structural, they're also behavioral. They require teams to align to a North Star. They require leaders who own strategy, structure, and systems and work with the people in the front line to create programs, processes, and people that are aligned with all of that above. Without the right culture, even real advantages can decay. But with the right culture, even modest advantages can compound. That is why we're going to shift now from the internal operating system to the external battlefield. If culture determines whether or not you can execute, these other competitive advantages will help you shape the culture to create a winning combination in the marketplace. So in Chapter 2, we talk about the 7 main competitive advantages that build dominant companies. Competitive advantage is the structural reason why your company wins repeatedly in the marketplace, even when other competitors are smart, well-funded, and aggressive. In simple terms, Competitive advantage answers the question, why us? Why are we different? And why will that continue to be true? Without a strong competitive advantage, you're going to be competing on effort and hustle metrics. And sadly, that's not going to work long term. You need a competitive advantage which gives you long-term leverage. As Michael Porter once wrote, competitive strategy is about being different. And being different in a way that is defensible and the customer is willing to pay for it. It also must be a problem that is important enough to be a priority to fix. Some products solve a problem in a truly unique and different way, but the problem it solves is not important enough, as of the moment in time, to pay for. A lot of leaders will blame the sales team for a product that has no unique selling proposition or dubious business value propositions at best, and they blame the sales team even though the real issue is the product itself not providing a competitive advantage or differentiation in the marketplace. That is why understanding your competitive advantage is not an academic exercise. It is existential. If you cannot clearly articulate the structural edge that makes you hard to beat, then your growth can be temporary, your valuation fragile, and your strategy very vulnerable. Let's break down the 7 primary forms of competitive advantage, because if you cannot name your edge, you cannot protect it, and you certainly cannot scale it. Number 1, certainly a very obvious one, but a superior product or service. If what you deliver is measurably better, faster, easier, cheaper, more reliable, more transformational, you'll instantly create some form of separation. This is the one competitive advantage that can make every other advantage stronger. 2 is brand power. Think of trust plus meaning plus identity. The brand is what people feel when they think of you. Brand is a great defense, and brand gives you pricing power. And when the brand becomes part of your customer's identity, you're hard to beat. Again, we give you examples of all these competitive advantages from a company perspective in the guide. 3, operational excellence. Doing what others can't or won't. This comes down to speed, reliability, and consistency, and they are weapons. 4, customer experience. The companies obsessed with the customer usually rise, and the ones that are indifferent usually fall. Satisfied customers drive network effects, telling others about the company, and have a high lifetime value. 5, unique intellectual property or proprietary frameworks. Again, in the technology space, this is pretty well understood, but examples of intellectual property advantages would be patented technology, unique algorithms or tools, trademark systems or processes. 6, community and network effects. A business with a community is far harder to displace than a business with just customers. Why? Because customers come and go, but community multiplies itself. Network effects create exponential momentum. 7, distribution power. This is owning the channel, and probably the best example of this, which we touch on in the guide, is Dell. They pioneered the direct-to-consumer model, which was revolutionary at the time. They pioneered the build-to-order distribution process, or system, if you will, and then they also developed an incredible global logistics and supply chain, which they mastered in the marketplace. Okay, let's move back to culture, because in Chapter 3 we talk about how culture multiplies every competitive advantage. So, how does it do this? Well, culture drives consistent behavior even when no one is watching. So that's an incredibly important point. You can copy your product, you can buy technology, you can even steal talent, but you cannot copy the behaviors, beliefs, and standards that a healthy culture produces day after day. Next point, really big one. Culture survives leadership changes and market shifts. In the guide, we provide several market stats and facts about the failure rate of companies. Starting a business is not for the faint of heart. We know that strategies change and products evolve and markets shift and competitors can do all sorts of crazy things. But a strong culture always endures. A culture of ownership, high standards, discipline, continuous improvement, and integrity will outperform clever tactics every time, because that culture adapts, stabilizes, and self-corrects. Another reason why culture magnifies the other advantages is that culture determines speed, and that's a real advantage in today's modern business world. A high trust, low politics, high accountability culture moves at a speed that competitors can't catch. Speed compounds, and only culture enables it to happen. Culture also attracts and retains top talent without having to pay or compete on salary alone. The best people don't leave companies for money. They usually leave because of toxic cultures and poor leadership. The best people don't join companies for perk. They join high-performing, mission-driven cultures. They feel it on the interview process. So a great culture can allow you to recruit top performers, keep them longer, and reduce turnover costs. And guess what? It increases engagement and motivation. And it shows up in how those employees treat their customers every day. Culture scales everything else. Systems, strategy, customer experience, execution, whatever competitive advantage. Culture is the one thing that competitors cannot take away from you, and that one thing, when built correctly, makes your company unbeatable. Alright, so in this first episode, we've covered something many founders underestimate. Culture is not a soft concept. It is the operating system of your company. We also explore the different forms of competitive advantage and why most of them can get copied, but why culture is the one that compounds over time and is almost impossible to copy. But that leads to a very uncomfortable truth. If culture is the engine of your company, and the founder is the architect of that engine, whether they realize it or not, they've got to understand that behavior, character, and leadership style quietly shape the entire organization, and it starts at the top. If you want to create the right leadership operating system or transform the one you have, please download Leadership 3.0, the Founders Leadership Operating System, from our YouTube channel. In the next episode, we are going to look into the mirror of leadership and explore something that many founders struggle to confront. Your company's culture does not reflect your value statement. It reflects you and who you are and how you act every single day.